3, 2, 1.
We're being
Okay.
recorded. Okay, so good. Actually, we're still in good morning. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming today. Session 5. Heather, can you go to the next slide? Today we've got two presenters. Mark Kukovka and Jackie D'Agostino are going to talk to us about project controls and change management. And this is a topic that we've kind of hit on along the way from the beginning all through now. So we're going to be learning some techniques today, both from a financial perspective as well as from a team management and metrics perspective on how to manage change, which is guaranteed to happen. I can tell you, you start the project, you get it signed, you start work, and something's going to change. So it's an important topic, and I'm going to hand it over to Mark, who's a very experienced project manager, and I think you'll enjoy what you're going to learn.
Okay, great to meet everybody, and as we're all over the countryside here with LaBella, so that's a good thing as we continue to grow. So what I find over the years in the project management sessions that I've gone through is that we all suffer from the same ailments and same problems and issues. They're all different scales and sizes, but so we've tried to put together some things here to maybe help make you a better project manager and give you some coping mechanisms and some proactive approaches to being a project manager. So you want to go to the next slide? So this just gives you the 10 major topics that we're going to kind of go over, but it's monitoring and tracking, right, with your plan. We talked about project plans and plans development in earlier sessions, so it's about monitoring and tracking. Number 2 is kind of your interim and final goals. You got to have some interim review and monitoring as you go along. 3 is a good manager. You're being proactive, and so you're looking for limitations or faults or things not being as efficient, and to do that, and you're just looking for them and how to address them early. 4, of course, is on time and under budget. You've all heard that. 5 is controlling changes, as she said. Changes the scope, changes the schedule, changes the cost. It's going to happen. And 6 is when to talk to the manager. When is an issue so important that we want to burden the manager, division director, or who is a senior report. When that. Risk assessment. As you get along and your major milestones of the project, some thoughts about looking at some risk assessment, budgetary objectives and adjustments, how to make those adjustments when you find that you're running out of fee for that. Invoicing and billings, you'll hear that from Jackie and myself. And then, of course, final reports to the kind of division director, division manager helps us plan. So I'm sure many of you heard this adage. I guess it's from Ben Franklin, but if you fail to plan, you are planning to fail, and it does kind of ring true, and it's just a matter of coming up with the right amount of planning. So you can go to the next slide. So this is just a continuum. I mean, you may have seen something like this before, but it's just, you got your project plan, and you're executing the plan. You're starting off, and it's wonderful. And I think the key message here is this is not, it's not something you just put in the drawer. You got the plan done. Okay, I got that task done. It goes in the drawer. These are generally dynamic, and they're shifting as you go on. And so as you monitor the plan is the next step here, you assess and monitor the plan, see how it's going. You review it against your goals and achievements that you set out to accomplish. And then you got to make adjustments, right? I mean, so it's not going exactly as I wanted it to. The owner is changing, the schedule is changing, my employees are changing. And so I got to, make some adjustments, and then you readjust the plan, and then it takes another cycle as it goes around. So it's just not put in the drawer. So the next slide. Get into this, a little further on his, but so as you monitor a project, I mean, frequency, and this is a big discussion. Typical topic here is, well, how often? How often do I look at this? I mean, what is the pace here, from a due diligence standpoint? And it makes a big difference if it's a large project, a medium project, or a small project. I mean, the small projects and because we talk to such a diverse group of you as managers in the company, small can be defined as we've talked to some of our people doing environmental phase 1 reports. I mean, they have $1,500 for a report, and they're doing quite a few of these things, and we've told them, hey, don't manage yourself on each one, maybe every 10 of them, maybe every 15 of them, because they're so small. But for me, a small project is you probably got to be looking at this thing weekly. That you got to be looking at Deltec. You're going to be a person, if you're constantly doing projects of fees of $100,000 or less or something like that, that you probably are, you can't wait for the monthly billing. That you're probably going to be leveraging Deltec more, and the knowledge and the information that we have in Deltec to kind of steer your project and your team, to be successful. For me, a large project is probably, at least things over $5 million in construction. That could be, it could be $1 million or $500,000 or more in fees. You have bigger teams, multidiscipline teams, and so with those more complex projects and deliverables, I'm probably doing that review on a monthly basis. I'm probably using my billing review. I'm using Deltec, and I'm checking those things back and forth, and then also looking at production, on how it's done. So it's kind of, you kind of got to have a feel for that. But at a minimum, I don't care what size project it is, as a minimum, you got to be doing it with your billing reviews on a monthly basis. Key indicators, I think that you're always looking to monitor as a macro basis, right? It's schedule, manpower, and fees, on here. I suppose you could add production in there too, to do that. But I like, and you'll hear me say it several times in the project, I like schedule. I think when all else fails, as a project manager, if you are a taskmaster and drive the schedule, you're probably going to be, more likely to be successful for that. And then you're watching your fees as you've developed the fees or inherited the fees. Some of you don't have the opportunity to develop them. You may have just inherited the fees, but about where they should be per project phases. So that gives you an indication for that. Contract scope, I think the biggest message, the takeaway for that is you got to know that the contract by heart. Is that you small, big, large, I don't care what it is, you got to know what the scope is. I have been in meetings with, in-person meetings with project managers, or in a different a different topic, not project management training, and a project manager inherited a project and he's running the project and he doesn't really understand the scope yet. He hasn't taken the time to plan and flip through the contract and the initial setup documents and the proposals, and he doesn't really know the scope. Well, you're off into trouble already, because you don't know what's an additional service if you don't know what's in the scope. You don't know if you're out of scope, you're drawing too much or you're designing too much if you don't know what the scope is. So my advice is as a manager, you got to dig into the scope and know it by heart, to do that. And then the next piece here, and Jackie's going to jump into this, is how to take the tools from Deltec and leverage them to your ability. And the nice thing that Jackie is going to do is there's a diversity of tools. You do not have to use all of them, right? But you're going to find from your personality and your management style, there's going to be some tools that are going to ring true to you and are going to be good for you. So if you're a macro guy, there's Deltek tools. If you're a micro guy, there's Deltek tools. And I'll let Jackie go to the next slide and get to some of those.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this next session. Today, I'm going to go over and dive into Deltek and what your typical Deltek project manager dashboard will look like. As Mark said, there is a variety of tools available to you. I'm going to touch on what a typical dashboard looks like for a project manager. By all means, a lot of these tools, some project managers use a lot of, some of them don't. But this is typically when we set up your project dashboard, this is typically what we start a project manager out with. If you do not have your project or your Deltek dashboard set up, please reach out to accounting because we want to get you guys set up with this to get you guys the tools that you need to start managing your Deltek dashboards. Just going to start going down the list here. If you have any questions when I'm going through this stuff, please stop me. A lot of what you'll see in Deltek is very customizable. Just please keep that in mind that yes, a lot of it can be customized to however you want to see your Deltek. So just please keep that in the back of your mind. Standard dashboard windows here. We have the project earnings report. This is a very high level report. We have the project summary report, which came over from Chazen, which is very helpful. We have the project analysis report, which is very helpful if you have multidisciplinary projects that help manage each of the division's budgets. You have a project detail report, and I will dig deeper into each of these. I'm just briefly mentioning what all of them are. I'm going to dig into all of these in the coming slides. You will have the AR invoice review, which will show all of your unpaid invoices on your projects, whether the project is open or closed in Deltek. So no, you do not need to keep a project opened just to see if an invoice has been paid. And then a project list, which will show all of your active projects. All of these columns that can be shown here are customizable. A couple of things to note here on these columns that can be shown is you can only have up to 10 columns. And the one that's listed as firm cost, this firm cost is only LaBella labor. So that's one that I just don't want anybody to get tripped up by that. It is only just LaBella's firm cost. So it doesn't include any of your expenses, any of your sub-consultants in there. And then you will have additional reports that are clickable links that you can click on as well. Any questions on what a typical Deltek dashboard looks like at this point? Okay, no. I do want to ask how often, I'm going to ask a poll question. Heather, I'll launch it because you showed me how. How often are you in Deltek to manage your projects? This does not count. You cannot count using, to log in to enter your timesheet or expense report, guys. Does not count. Okay, it's a little bit all over the board. A lot of people don't go in Deltek at all. Come on, guys. Don't you love Deltek? Come on.
And that's why we're doing this, right? I mean, that's why we're doing this is intro and so people understand this is the data. This is the financial data. This is the engine we have to get you the financial data besides the monthly billing. So
right. Okay, so let's dig in deeper into,
You didn't show the results.
oh, Heather, how do I show the results?
Okay.
You showed me everything but that.
Sorry.
That's okay. Okay.
All right. So you could, yeah. So yeah, obviously, Jackie, you'll tailor, the conversation with this to the people that you got to get them going. So.
Yes. All right, so let's dig in deeper into this project earnings with a multiplier report. So this is one of my favorite reports to use just because it shows a lot of high level data. If you're a project manager that likes to see just a snapshot of how your projects are performing at any given point in the month, this is the report for you. A couple of caveats I do want to mention with this report. When you look at this report, as I mentioned, it is a snapshot in time. This report changes from day to day with posted information. So when you're looking at this report, the WIP column, this shows only posted information. So this is the column that's going to update every single day. So when you look at this report, this column can update from day to day. So as you imagine, all the other columns can update as well based off of that WIP column. So I just want to point that out. So when you look at this, this is not the end all be all of how your projects are performing. This is just a quick snapshot of, okay, this is where I'm at as of today. And if you want to see how your projects are doing or how much you have remaining to bill as of a certain date, then this is the report for you. So just going to run through the columns and what they all show and everything. Again, if you have any questions as I'm going through these columns, feel free to put it in the chat or just stop me at any point. This report will be organized by project number and name. It's going to show the total compensation and fee planned. This comes right from the PIF that you have issued. If you have additional fee that gets added to the project from change orders or additional services and stuff, that you'll want to communicate to your biller. You can send either a revised PIF through or you can send an email over to your biller. So that way we can revise the fee for you in Deltek. This is all encompassing of your fee. So this will include all of your labor, consultants, and expenses. So this is inclusive of everything. The next column is your job to date billed. So this will be everything that we've billed to the client. So all the invoices that have been sent to the client. The next column is job to date received from the client. So this is how much the client has paid to us so far of the invoices that we've sent to them. Remaining to bill, this is just a formula, taking the total compensation and subtracting out the job to date billed. So if you happen to notice that your remaining to bill is less than your WIP column, that would be a red flag because that means that you have more sitting in unbilled than you have left to bill to the client. So that would be a big flag. So either looking at getting additional fee for the project or having a conversation with your biller and asking, what we can do to mitigate, what's happening. Having those conversations sooner with your biller is always best. So if you know that you're going to go over budget on your project because of one thing or another, having that conversation ahead of time is much better. Our WIP is considered revenue. Even if you don't bill the WIP, it is considered revenue in our reporting system in LaBella land. So even if you're not billing that WIP, it is considered revenue. So it is important to have that conversation with your biller. If you're continuing to charge labor at a regular multiplier, but we can't bill that labor, then that's going to be a problem. It's going to be a huge write-off at the end of the project. So it's important to have those conversations with your biller early on, so that way we can mitigate those problems. I do see a question, so I'm just going to pause really quick. It might be more informative to show the multiple choices 0 than 1 to 2 a week. I might check Delta.
I think she's talking about the poll question. I think
Okay. All right. Well, I can use that as an example, or going forward, I can adjust like the poll question to maybe change it from 0 to 1 to 2. Okay. Thank you, Crystal. Okay. The next column is job to date spent at your billing values. So this will show everything that has been charged to your project. This shows anything that's been unposted as of the day before. So as I mentioned, this is a snapshot of your project. This report updates every single night, and it updates with posted and unposted. These are workflow columns. So this WIP column will show anything that's posted, and then these job to date columns show everything that's posted, which I know can be confusing. So if you ever have questions about these, again, reach out to accounting. So if you haven't billed your project, and there's a difference between these two columns, that would be why your job to date total spent at billing column shows posted information. This is at your billing values. So this includes any markup of your labor. So any labor multiplier, that is inclusive of that, all of your expenses and sub-consultants as well. The next two columns just breaks down this total spent between how much has been spent between labor and how much has been spent between expenses and sub-consultants. The next column over just is showing you how much has been spent on the labor. So how much has it cost LaBella to run the project? So this is just the job to date labor amount. So it's just the cost of the labor without any markup in it. The last two columns are the project multipliers. These are here just as benchmarks to give you an idea of how your project is performing when you look at this report. I cannot emphasize that enough because I don't want you to think that when you look at this report, this is what your multiplier is going to be. No, this is just a snapshot of what your project multiplier may end up being. So this first project multiplier is if you build this WIP. So if this project builds this 10,513.88, the project multiplier would be a 2.01. The next column is the project multiplier if we couldn't bill this WIP. So if for whatever reason we couldn't bill this $10,000, if we had to absorb it, write it off, whatever terminology you like to use, if we couldn't bill this, then the project multiplier would be a 1.82. The one caveat with this report is that these project multipliers cannot calculate on a cumulative basis. So please don't ever look at these down here. These are not correct. This 0.03 and this 0.30, these aren't correct. Deltec, just for whatever reason, cannot calculate it on a cumulative basis. People get really nervous about that because it does really funky things. But it does it correctly on the project level. So we still feel like it's very, it's very important to show you what it is on the project level. If you are ever curious about what your overall project multiplier is, please feel free to reach out to accounting and we can pull that information from you correctly from Rob Pepe's very detailed reports that will include all of your divisional labor cross charges. And it will be much more accurate than what Deltec would ever give you. Let's see, I have a question from Doug McCord. How do we add the project earnings chart to our dashboard? So the project earnings chart, I will go ahead and switch over to Deltec really quick. So to add it to your dashboard, I actually stole somebody's dashboard for this training. So this is what an actual project manager's dashboard is. You would go up to this button, you would click configure and click show unused dash parts. and then it would be listed here as project earnings with multiplier. It's not going to be listed here because I have already selected it, but it's going to be listed just as it's shown in the PowerPoint, project earnings with mult dash fries. So you're looking for the one that's labeled fries.
In honor of Stacy Fries.
In honor of Stacy Fries, of course. Any other questions on this one? Okay, so the project summary dashboard report, this is a relatively new report that we have adopted from Chazen. Thank you, Kat. This is going to give you a breakdown of projects by each phase, as shown here. So it is organized in blue by each phase, and then below it in green will be organized by each phase. It is going to show you the total unbilled, in whatever is unbilled, and then the current. So the only thing I want to specifically mention about the current hours and the current charge is it's only going to show it for whatever current month that you're in. So if we are in February, when you click on those hours, it's only going to show you what's current for February. So for example, I just want to switch to Deltec and show you exactly what it's going to do for you. This one. So when you click on one like this, where it has hours under current hours, when you click on it, it's going to generate a supplemental report, which, where did it go? Where did you go? There it is. Oh, it's behind everything. There it is. Okay. So it's going to generate this supplemental report, but it's going to clearly say up at the top for the period of 2/1 to 2/28, and it's only going to show you what's current for the current February period. So that is the only caveat to that for the those current columns. The other really nice thing about this is that it's going to show the job to date hours and job to date charged. Anything that's blue is like a clickable fields that you can click on and then generate an additional supplemental report. So if you wanted to see what was charged to this Webster report on phase 3 for this 51 hours, you can click on it, and it's then going to generate this additional report with all the details on it, with the employee that charged, if they typed in any kind of comment on their timesheet, the date that they charged, and the number of hours. So it's really nice because it gives you all those additional details. The other really nice thing is if you have any expenses that are charged as well, you can click on those expenses and it's going to do the same thing. It's going to bring up an additional supplemental report and then also give you the option of the supporting document that you can then click on and then view the supporting document from right from there. So that's really nice. I'm not going to click on it because this is postage, and the postage ones are always like 50 pages sometimes, so I don't want to click on it, but I promise those all work. The other really nice thing about this is that it gives you the budget that is entered. Again, that comes right from the last page of the PIF, as long as you guys enter the PIF correctly, the way that we went over it in session 3. It gives you the percent of the budget expended. And then the budget balance. If you have a negative budget balance, that would be a red flag because that means that you are going over budget there. So that would be something that you would call attention to. It also gives you the job to date paid, job to date AR, which means that the client owes us money, and then the fee type. So the fee type would be how we are billing the client, how the invoice will look to the client. If you could care less about seeing the phases, or you want to see it on a very high level and just the project level, you would click the minimize button and it will minimize everything and just give you everything on a very high level. The other really nice thing about all these reports is all these reports have document maps that you can see. As you can see, this report is 8 pages. And if you're looking for a certain project, to scroll through all of these would be, kind of annoying. If you scroll all the way over to the left here and kind of hover, it says show or hide document map. And if you click on this and bring it over, then it'll show you all of the project numbers and names available to you. And then you can kind of click and just go to wherever you want, and then the report will just bring you to that project that you clicked on. So that way you don't have to scroll and kind of search for the one that you're looking for. So that makes it a little bit easier to navigate these reports for you. You don't have to memorize the numbers. I know in accounting, I memorize numbers, but that's why I went into accounting. It makes it a little easier for me to memorize numbers. But for you guys, I know that project names ring a bell to you much easier. So that's really nice. And then you can always click on these and go right to the phase if you needed to see a specific phase as well. Any questions on the project summary report at all?
I think the other thing that we do for you is you'll get a copy of the PowerPoint afterwards. And one thing you'll see on in there, we've tried to put numbers on the first slide and numbers on these slides to help you kind of track, as you can go back on your own as you're becoming familiar with this and you want to, see how some of these network with each other. That's just something that we've done with all of you.
Yes.
I'll help you along.
Yes, absolutely. So the next report that I have is the budget analysis report. So this one is pulled right from the last tab of the PIF that you guys enter. Again, this one is very helpful if you are working with multidisciplinary projects. We enter the division or discipline that's working on the project. We will enter the budget for each discipline. And as that discipline works on your project, then the hours and the job to date spent at billable value starts to accumulate. And then what this report does, it gives you this balanced billing available to you. So it'll help you realize if a division is going over budget. So if you see something like this, where the environmental budget is going over, you can kind of ask yourself, is there a reason for the overage? Did you know about the overage? And kind of helps you track the fee for each discipline. And it'll help you do that. And then in Deltec, I just want to show you the actual budget analysis report, just to give you a feel for what this one will look like. Let me just go to like a better report here. So it's going to do exactly what this one looks like, where it has all of the labor, the job to date spent, the balance. It'll show you the labor and then all of the expenses that are entered underneath it as well. So all of the consultants, it's not going to show you the vendor name. I will show you a separate area for where you can control or watch where your vendor names will appear. This will only show you the account and stuff, just for how this one is configured. This particular report is configured, but it'll still show you for this phase and project that you budgeted for $1,390. They billed us $1,050, so they still have a balance of $340. So it'll give you an idea of how much is remaining on the project. Okay, so the project detail report is just as it sounds. It's all of the details on the report. This is going to show you all of the unposted time on a project as well. So it's going to show you by project and then by phase, all of the labor that was charged and then all of the expenses underneath it. It's going to show you just all of the, it's not going to show you like dates or anything like that, but it's going to show you all of the cumulative hours that have been charged to the project. So if you are looking to see if, you know, the hours that are worked here. So if you're looking at the hours and you're like, whoa, Eric charged a lot of hours. I wasn't anticipating him working that many hours on this project. You know, what happened, you know, you can kind of use that report, this report for that. Or if you're looking at these hours and you're like, where are all of Kyle's hours? I anticipated him, you know, working way more hours on this. We have, you know, a due date coming up for next week. Where are all these hours? Things like that you can use this report for to kind of manage, you know, if you have due dates coming up, to look at where everyone's hours are falling in at. Other red flags to kind of keep in mind is if you have employees listed here with hours, with total amounts, but then there's no billing rates here. So this one, Jensen Porter does not have a billing rate. So this would be a red flag to keep in mind. So if you see this report and there's no billing value here, I would reach out to your biller about this and just send a note, just say, hey, Jensen does not have a billing rate. Can we add a billing rate for Jensen? If we haven't billed for Jensen's hours, then great, we can add a billing rate. If we have billed for Jensen's hours, then there's no way for us to add a billing rate. I'm going to touch on that later, but going through the billing process, it's a one shot to kind of catch everything all at once. As I've mentioned in the PIF review process, that accounting will help you and be your second set of eyes for all of this stuff. But ultimately, all of this falls on you, the project manager. So we will help you and help double check all this stuff. But ultimately, if a project gets billed without a rate on it and stuff, this would fall on you as the project manager. The other thing to watch out for is employees that are charging to your incorrect phases. So if Jensen is charging to this project phase 01 and you're like, oh, whoa, she does not belong on phase 01. She needs to charge time to phase 02. That would be something that you could also send a note to us as your biller. You can say, oh, she's missing a rate. We can please add her at $50 an hour, and then please move all of her time to phase 02 because she shouldn't be on phase 01. And then I would also, you know, let Jensen know that, hey, please don't charge to phase 01. You need to charge your time to phase 02. So
Dustin has a question.
Yeah.
Jackie.
Hi, Jackie. I was just wondering what happens if that's not corrected and it's sent out for billing? Is it just billed $0?
Yes. Yeah, it would be billed $0. So it would be as if Jensen worked for free and kind of just it is what it is, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions on the project detail report? All right, so the air invoice review dash part, and I do have a question on this one. Cool question. Okay, Okay, so I'm curious, when do collections fall on the project managers?
Can you say that again, Jackie?
When do collections fall on the project manager's shoulders?
Okay, I don't know. Do you want to take that, or
It's a poll question.
It's a poll question. Yeah,
Sorry.
she's going to show the results here in a second.
Yeah.
sorry, it's my I'm having technical problems, and it's the sound keeps breaking up.
No, it's okay.
Okay. You can share that.
Yes. All right. So some of you did say never. Collections is handled by accounting. So I do want to explain that a little bit. That's not correct. Collections is part of the project manager's responsibility. Accounting will help with any kind of collections. Any kind of help with collections, but invoices over 120 days old is the project manager's responsibility. And new to this fiscal year, I do want to let you guys know that we do have something new going on. So approved by the board of directors and all the division directors. Invoices over 500 days old now count against the division's gross profit. So that's brand new. So anything over 500 days, so that's over a year and a half. Sadly, that is a reality in our line of work. It does make up $3.4 million right now. I just looked at it recently, which is super sad. So I just wanted to share that news with you guys in case it hasn't made its way to you. So this kind of leads me into my accounts receivable section.
Yeah, well, I'm laughing. These are the reason for doing these sessions is 80% of you did not know the answer. So.
Yes. But this is good.
Right.
This is good.
That's why we're doing it. That's why we're meeting. That's why we're meeting.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So collections. So the AR invoice review dashboard is extremely helpful to help manage your outstanding invoices. So let me just switch to Deltac really quickly because it helps me kind of navigate it a little bit easier to show you exactly how the utility works in Deltac. First, I want to start out, if you do not have this on your Deltac, please let me know, and I will help to get it added to your Deltac. Catherine asked what is done between 0 and 100 days for invoice follow-up. So really accounting works to do the 0 to 120 day invoice follow-up with the help of project managers. So if we are having resistance from the client, then we might ask for the project manager's assistance. Because accounting can only do so much. We don't know the ins and outs of your project. We can ask, hey, did you receive an invoice copy? Did you need a copy of the invoice to pay this? But as soon as they start saying, well, I don't know what work was done, or well, why are you billing me 80% complete when I haven't received this? Or why are you billing me 100% complete when I haven't received the report? Accounting can't help with any of that stuff because we don't do the reports for the clients. We don't know what type of work you guys are really doing with the clients. So as soon as they start talking about project deliverables or what was actually completed on the client for the client, that's when we're going to call on you guys to kind of help with the collection process because we don't know what you guys deliver to the clients. And as soon as they start talking about us not delivering or giving them something, then that's when you guys kind of have to step in and then you can be like, I sent you the report and maybe they just missed the email, right? So that's always best case scenario. So if you don't have this on your Deltek dashboards, please just reach out to accounting and we can definitely get this added to your dashboard. This will show you anything that's outstanding for your projects, whether the project is open and closed. So no, you do not need to keep a project opened just to see if an invoice has been paid. You can close the project in Deltek and it will still show up on this utility. So the really nice feature about this, if you just want to show the 120 days, is you can just kind of click on this and it'll just organize them for you to see which projects are over 120 days. The other really nice features about this is you can use these utilities to see the last receipt on a project. So if you wanted to see for this particular project that has $13,000 outstanding, the last time we received a payment, you would click on it and it would show you the last time we received a payment. This one has nothing listed, which means that the client hasn't paid us for anything on this project. So let me see if I can find one that has something listed so that way I can show you that feature. Okay, so this one, the next one down has something listed. So the last time they paid us for this next one down was December 12th for $419, and it'll give you the invoice number that they paid us for. So it'll show you the last time we received a payment for an invoice. The other really nice thing about this, this feature is if you click view detail on this, where did it go? Did it show up on my other screen? Hold on. Where did you go? So if you click view detail, it'll also show you all the details comprising of the amount shown there. So it'll show you the invoice number, the invoice dates, the total billed, and the balance. And this is also where you can preview the invoices to get copies of the invoices. Dustin, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was curious if Mark or anybody else wanted to speak on retainers for contracts and the success of that on larger projects.
Yeah, most of what I do is in the municipal public money world is where I've been since 1990, and so in the public municipal world, they never paid retainers. They don't have a mechanism really. Governments really don't have a mechanism to give us money in advance, for a project, that I know of, and I know it's a typical check your box in an AIA contract. But I think that the only time that I know of that it happens is with private work. I think in some of the private work, it might almost be expected that people do that. So other managers who do that private work would have to speak up or chime in. But I would say in my career, I've never had a retainer, never had an upfront retainer. So we understand government and cash flow and government, so we don't even ask.
Hey, can I jump in here? We ask for retainers all the time, particularly in the private sector. We're doing work for small businesses. Certainly architecture, some of these state, government work is a completely different story. You're going to get paid, but, dealing with mom and pops and things like that, I've gotten paid 100% before we even done the work before. So I highly recommend it.
On private.
On private sector stuff. Yeah. Government stuff's a little bit different, but private sector work, which environmental, we do a boatload of that type of work. You have to get money up front, particularly with smaller companies. It's a one-off. It's first time doing work for a client. You have to ask for money up front. Don't hesitate to ask for 50% up front or whatever. I've done that before too. And if they don't want to pay, you can negotiate at that point. But, certainly you got to cover your costs, when you get out in the field and when you start to incur costs, you got to have some type of backup.
Yep. Good answer. Yep. That's my experience, Dustin. That's my experience also.
All right. Great. Thanks for the input.
I have a follow-up question on that.
Sorry, this is Kaylin Davis. So I have a project that I am asking for a full retainer on. And how do we go about when it is invoicing time? We're not going to send invoices. Do we just send like a statement to them that shows what costs have been accrued at that point?
It's really like the client's preference. It's really the client's preference.
What do we do in our school districts, Jackie?
Yeah,
give
so
her-
for our school districts, we've sent, it looks like a $0 invoice. So we've zeroed out the retainer, applied the retainer, and we kind of generate a $0 invoice. And that's what we send to the client.
And I like that from a diligence standpoint. It's like, it just protects you. It's kind of a CYA thing on the backside. Well, here, we did the work. I'm giving you some documentation that we did the work, even though you paid me. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And Jackie, does that invoice show that the retainer has been applied?
Yes.
So that's great. Yeah.
So it will show like what has been charged to that date.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
And let's say it'll show as much or little as you have agreed to with the owner, right?
Yes.
I mean, I got owners who want to see everybody's hours, everybody's name and stuff like that. I got people who just want to see percent complete,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then you're trusting with, then there's a trust there with deliverables that they feel satisfied that they've received adequate deliverables. So just the further clarification with that is it's as much data that you feel you need to, you and the owner agreed to satisfy the concern that you know, or that you did the project.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, so let me see.
We're running late.
Yeah. So the next one that I have is my AR report. This is an additional AR report that you can add. The only difference here is that this is a report that you click on to run. This is a good summary report that will show the client. This is the only difference between this report and the AR invoice review. This is one that to get this one to run is right here. It's a clickable one that you click on to generate. The next report that I have is my unbilled aging. So this is any unbilled time and expenses, any unbilled time and expenses, which is also referred to as WIP. You can see it as WIP. We refer to it as WIP. It is considered revenue at LaBella. So if we cannot bill for something again, or the project is going over budget, you should discuss it with your division director or your biller, because we don't want to continue to record revenue that we're not going to get. When you're looking at this unbilled aging, you should be looking at it, and anything that's going over 90 days, it is never good, because that means it's getting very old. You should be billing on a monthly basis. If you're not billing a project on a monthly basis, if it is milestone billing or benchmark billing, just make sure that you are relaying that information to your biller, so that way they're aware that you're not billing it on a monthly basis, and that's why. Any delays in billing may cause delays in payments to your subconsultants. So I want to reiterate to you that subconsultants are on a paid when paid basis, which means that they do not get paid until LaBella gets paid. So they need to be invoiced to our client, and then LaBella needs to get paid first before we pay our subconsultants. So I just want to reiterate that whole process again to you guys. So when you're looking at this report, again, this is a report that'll be a clickable one. It's this my unbilled aging, and you'll click on it, and then it's going to be one that generates again like this. And you'll want to see something that looks generally like this, that stays everything that's current or in the 31 to 60 days. Anything that goes beyond that should be a conversation that you're having with your biller. So I am luckily Jared's biller. Everything that is old, I am well aware of why we haven't or not billing it yet. So it should be a conversation that you are actively having with your biller as to why things are getting older. Any questions on the unbilled detailed report? No, okay. Okay, so the expense invoice lookup report, this is just another way that will show you all of the expenses on your projects. And we'll just show you another way to see the attachments. This report, though, will only show you the expenses. This report will show you the vendor names, the dates, the amounts, and then it'll show you something like this where it shows you the supporting document. I'm not going to go into too much detail because I feel like I've already touched on a lot of this, so I'm just going to scroll past this one. Okay, so project list. So the project list will provide you all of your active projects. This is specifically only your active ones. So as soon as you close a project down, it's like automatically going to be removed from your project list. Same thing as soon as you open a new project, it's automatically going to be added. So as I mentioned, these columns you can edit and change here. These are some suggested columns that you can add here. And then anything that's like blue and underlined is a clickable link that will bring you right to that specific record. To change these columns here, you can just go to the project list and click select fields. And then this is where you would select these, click remove, and then these are where you would find the available columns available to you to add. And then you can put them in whatever order you see fit to you. I'm not going to mess with this particular person's because he has it in a very particular order. He also has what he wanted as his own personal proposal list. So he has additional things. As I mentioned, your Deltek dashboard is your own Deltek dashboard, and it's very customizable. So if you have additional things that you want on your dashboard, we can customize this and get it however you want to see it. But as I mentioned, this is a clickable link here that you can click on and go to that specific record. Okay, so the Project Info Center. I feel like I had maybe a question about this. No, maybe not. Okay. So the Project Info Center, do a lot of you use the Project Info Center to manage your projects? I don't have a poll question about this. I just was curious. Like, I don't know if you guys use this at all. Nobody wants to answer.
I haven't really had.
I can talk to myself. It's fine.
Jackie, I could just say, I know from my experience, I prefer the dashboard, but when I to like Seth Davis about this, he almost by default uses this project info. So it seems like it's very preference based.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you, Crystal. Okay, so the Project Info Center can be seen at the project and phase level. You can pin your phases to see your phase list, which I can show you. And then there are a couple of tabs that I'm going to touch on that I think are very beneficial for project managers to use. They are the Budget and Revenue tab and the Team tab. And then right from the Project Info Center, you can get to the project review screen, which will give you a lot of the same information that the reports can use, or the reports give you, but the project review screen gives you a lot of information, just all in one place that you can get to. So I like to touch on that as well, just because it gives you everything all at once in this one screen. So I'm just going to switch faces here again, going back here. And I picked one. It was this one, the Flower City one. Okay. So if you click right on the project long name, then it brings you right into the project info center for that project. So for this particular project, Jared already has his phases pinned. I'm just going to close them just to show you how it works. So if you click on these little shapes, which I know is super intuitive, but if you click on the shapes, then there's this little tiny green thumbtack here, and that's what you'll want to click on to get your phases pinned. Once you click the green thumbtack, then they stay there. So if you ever click the red X again, just remember your shapes and then your green thumbtack. If you ever forget that, again, feel free to reach out to accounting and we can add those for you or show you how to add those back again. And then from here, you can click in between the phases to be able to see those. And then to get back onto the phase, the project level, you would just click on the project name again here. The budget and revenue tab, it's going to show you the planned compensation for the project broken down by labor, expenses, and then if you had any planned consultants. And then over here, we'll show you the project summary. It gives you the job to date information up here, and then it'll give you the total unbilled over here. As you go in between each phases, it'll update the total unbilled over here for each phase. And it'll update the planned compensation for each phase. The only thing it will not do is it will not update the job to date, because the job to date is the job to date for the entire project. So it's not going to update by phase as you click on it. It's just going to stay overall for the entire project for the job to date information there. The team tab, and I'm just going to go back up to the project level again to show you this. The team tab, when you click on refresh hours, it's going to then refresh the hours that have been charged to the project. And then from here, you can drill down and click on the hours. And when you click on the hours, it's going to run a supplemental labor detail report for that employee that you clicked on. It'll show you the phase, the employee name, if they have again, a note that they entered in their timesheet, the date, and then the number of hours that they charged. And then as you scroll down, it'll break it down by phase and stuff as well. And then down below here, it'll do the same for vendors. If you click refresh cost amounts, it'll update the cost amount here. So if you know that Schneider Laboratories for this particular project should only be billing you $2,500 and they've billed you $2,750, $30, you can be like, well, what happens? Like we had an agreed upon cost of $2,500. You billed me an extra, $250 for this project. So you can manage your overall costs that way. If you click in between the phases, it'll do the same thing as well, but only for that particular phase. So if you click refresh hours, these are only the hours associated with this particular phase. And same thing with the vendors. These are only the costs associated with this particular phase for the vendors. Any questions for this particular tab or anything I just touched on so far? Okay, so
because we're beyond noon there, Jackie, we'll have to come up with a breaking point here, because I think you have 4 more slides to go. So I don't know if you want to summarize them, a little simpler or something like that. So
I do, yeah. I can just let me see. Hold on. Let me see what I have here, because I think it's just project review that I have, and then the custom reports.
Because we're trying to give them an overview, right? We're trying to give them an overview, and so I just don't want to try to get too far behind. So
Yes. I can stop here if you want me to.
or you want to finish up with custom reports if you want to do that.
That's fine. Yeah.
And we could you could do it. Go to that custom report slide, and then we'll take a break. We'll take our 10 minutes,
Sure.
10 or 15 minutes, Catherine, for lunch.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay.
Okay, go to your custom reports.
Yeah. Okay. So beyond all the things that I just touched on, there are also custom reports that you can run. As I mentioned, there's lots of options. To run these custom reports, you would click on the options first and then records selected. There are a lot of global reports already available to you that I didn't go through. But beyond that, there are just original reports that you can play around with. If you have questions on how to run a custom report, please let me know. But the main thing is putting in specific dates and then the project lookup, adding in the project, and then putting in a semicolon if you wanted to run more than one project here. So, and then you can also save any custom reports as a personal favorite as well. So that way you don't have to continue to enter in all those particular options as well. So that way you can save it and it'll always be saved there for you. So.
Okay. All right, Catherine, is it, we take a 10-minute break is what we do?
Yes.
Okay, so I got what, 12:08, so we'll get back on at 12:18.
Yep. All right.
Okay. All right, thanks. You could do that, and then thanks, Heather, for either stop the recording or whatever we got to do there.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, we are back.
We're back. All right, so I will run through some just project management, good project management practices as we've kind of talked about for this next step here. So performance tracking, for this. So it's everything from looking at employees and kind of that gut check. So we've gone through Deltek. We've got the tools there. It sounds like we probably need more Deltek training for this particular group. And but it's a good indicator here is hours versus efficiency. Your expectation, some of your projects you may be doing on an hourly basis, some of them on a percent basis, but it's just good indicators for that. The quick example that I have for that is on my Schoharie County jail project. It looked like my civil group was doing really well on with their number of hours versus amount billing on the civil design. And then when I went and checked with them and kind of saw where they were well behind. They had ended up that they had a missed expectation on what the project schedule was, and so they had to then do double time to get caught back up. But it's an indicator you're looking at again on Deltek, because it's the design and the progress is very fluid for that. Performance tracking for client expectations. I mean, what are they looking for? I mean, they're looking for schedule, they're looking for deliverables, and they're looking for us to be accountable. And what kind of things are we accountable for? I mean, for our New York State, our Office of General Services clients, they have a particular deliverables that they want us to, an expectation of what those deliverables look like. DASNY is another agency in New York State, and the State Education Department is another agency. versus our private client and government clients. I mean, some of my smaller government clients, they probably don't have as acute expectations, but the larger clients, they know exactly what they want, and you got to hit the mark when you do that. So when you're checking your performance for that. Financial performance, I like to do it by phases. For those larger projects that, for the architects in the room, that you have a schematic design, or, schematic design development, or construction documents, or people call it 30%, 60%, 90%, 100% on there. Those are great milestones to me to work with your biller and develop those reports. Is it either you can develop them, or I work with my biller to develop those reports? That's where the rubber hits the road, because many times our fees are structured around that schedule, those milestones, I'll say, those milestones. And then so I'll go back and say, okay, I want everybody's hours from the beginning of time all the way through this particular date. And my sub-consultants and all my costs through this particular date. And they'll give you that milestone report. And then you can compare that to where you are with the budget. And to me, it's one of the best indicators there are to kind of say, okay, am I ahead of the curve, behind the curve? I'm doing it. So we can go to the next slide. I think we're going to do the poll question 5. So you can go to the next slide, and then you can do poll question 5. I'm not, here we are. Simple on doing it. Again, a kind of a management tool. See if anybody does that. Because we're trying to make our other team members also accountable with Deltec, and also and sometimes I find my mechanical, electrical, plumbing, civil team members sometimes do not. So 30% of you do, and 70% don't. So it's just something to think about. Is if your particular projects have milestones to them, it's what I do is I'll get that biller report, I'll make a PDF out of it, I'll compare it to the budgets that we all agreed to ahead of time, and then I just circulate it to the team. And it's a good macro level gut approach to where you are. It doesn't tell you where the production is, but it tells you where you are from a billing expectation standpoint. So detecting limitations and faults here. I mean, to me, this is a proactive slide. I mean, even though we have this wonderful picture here with the canyon in the middle, but it's a proactive approach by project managers on helping to manage your project. Project schedules. Depending upon if you're a younger manager and maybe not as good as doing schedules, my suggestion is you should do a peer review with your schedules, or talk to a senior person, as you're developing a schedule, so that then you can share with team members. Because your schedule just, it may be too unrealistic, it may be too long, it may be too short. So that's just a suggestion, that I put out there, for that. Review interim submissions for level of completeness. So this is where you take the project manager and you take your judgment and your experience and you interject it with the Deltec data and the milestone reports or your monthly reports on there. And so you're constantly looking for, okay, so I'm this far along in the schedule, I'm this far along with my billings, where am I with the drawings? One of the things that when I was doing project management on a regular basis is I actually took the index of drawings and I put it in an Excel spreadsheet, and I had percent complete on the right hand side, and I would circulate it to all the team members, and I just wanted a gut check from them, a very quick gut check from them. what percent complete is this particular drawing, kind of including the specifications and calculations and things like that. And that gave me, when I added that up and totaled that up, it gave you a gut feel without looking at every physical page, because some of my drawings are 500. So my drawing sets have been up to 500 drawings, but you get the team members to do that. So it was a gut check to do that. The milestone deliveries are the other time to do that. Is flipping through the projects and on the smaller sets and say, does this feel like it's a percent complete? So you're always trying to have that alignment. It's that three-legged alignment between fee, production, and schedule. And if that all under detections and faults, limitations and faults here, if that all kind of looks right, then you feel pretty comfortable moving on to the next phase. And then, of course, as Jackie's been saying, we want to use Deltec for that. You can on your monthly basis or your milestone basis, you can look at hours. And again, if you have an hourly project, you can do a gut check between hours and kind of percent complete, or you can do project complete against the budget, or you can look at a percentage complete. On the bigger projects, sometimes I look at it, what percent is the my total hours on the project comparative versus the percent of the drawings complete for that. I think that project managers, we got to be a little bit of a type A personality. We got to be a little bit of a hard charger, but I think that at the same time, we have to be grounded. We can be optimistic. I think that managers have to be able to rally teams and excite team members to perform, but at the same time, I think you've got to be realistic. You've got to know if the project is starting to trend into trouble, and is there time to make corrections for that, and talk to the team and coming up with those solutions for that. Yeah.
Crystal White had a question. She said, if you didn't want to involve team members in the financials specifically, couldn't you provide them with expected hours for expected for the tasks?
Yeah, if they knew, right, and this is what we're trying to drive this bottom up, top down, right? So if you want to, on day one, if you want to give the electrical group, okay, you have 30 hours to do this phase, and then you get that report and you want to give it to them in hours versus dollars. I think the effectiveness, the point is the effectiveness, right? The point is are you under or over budget or whatever you're doing to do that? The only variable, so I'm saying that's fine. That's a fine way to do it. The only variable with that is that I have found is I've had some, you can't control who necessarily all your team members are, and you could have an electrical guy. He's knocking it out of the park. He's done it under 30 hours, but he's very expensive, right? So now that's a variable that I'm going to look at later down the road. Is I never planned that. I budgeted for this electrical guy to be whatever, $120 an hour, and this guy, I got the senior electric guy. He's 150. He's killing my budget. So that's the only variable that I would, insight with that. So thanks, Heather.
I have a quick question. So I'm curious, Crystal, like what kind of project this would be in, and are you talking about like folks that are just say like maybe just like a designer or something like that? Because typically what happens is when we're creating the proposals, we're getting all the hours and all the budgets from all the technical leads who are involved in the project. So they do know already from the very get-go before the proposal even goes out, what the budgets are and what the hours are going to be, because they're giving that to you as the project manager.
Yeah, typically, at least in the projects I'm working on, I might be getting input from like a map maker or a delineator as to how many hours, days they might think they need for a site, but a lot of that is formulaic. So, let's say we know X amount of miles of utility right of way needs to be delineated. There's sort of a formula we use. So then we do like a project kickoff at the beginning of the meeting where we just kind of go over the amount of days that a delineator might have, or when we do wetland reports, we might by default have 20 hours built in for somebody to write a report, and they're already aware of that. So then the discussion might be more of like, if you notice that if the budget's going over and they've gone way over the expected hours, they already sort of know what's expected of them in terms of hours. So you can have a discussion as to why they might have gone over in a particular case.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. And also I will say on like multidisciplinary projects, the technical leads are also in there checking in Deltec, to see how their particular teams are doing, or they should be, on a multidisciplinary project, the PM's still watching the budget, but if there's a particular group that's working on a particular task, they also have a responsibility to, manage the budget on my tasks. So, all right, thanks for clarifying.
All right, so you can send out poll question 6 there, Jackie, please. Just kind of goes along with this theme a little bit.
Is it what are reasonable solutions?
What are reasonable solutions? Yep.
Okay.
Help the project that need more time to complete.
Okay. I just want to make sure that was the right one.
These are things to think about, early on. I mean, I tell, as I'm talking to the younger project managers, it's like, it's easier to fix things early than it is later. It's just time and schedule are generally our enemy a little bit when on these projects, any of them probably, but the larger ones especially. You just have more budget and more options to work with, early on as you're trying to right the ship. So
not everybody wants to answer this question.
Not everybody wants to answer this question. Well, we can get as close as we can, so whatever you want to do, so we can keep.
Yeah. We're about 85% people responded, so I'm just going to end it there and share.
Okay. All of the above is the answer. All the above is the answer. I think you've got to be creative. I think that the project managers and senior people with you as you come up with things, I think you got to be creative in your solution. So if it takes a little bit of overtime, and it doesn't have to be for the entire project, right? I mean, you can right the ship with a week or 2 weeks to get to the next milestone, right? To do that. I hate to do it, but I have had to keep things moving. The owner said we're going to bid this project on a certain date, and I've had to issue structural drawings. I've had to issue interior drawings in the addendum. I don't want to do it, but it's a way to to keep moving and balance your variables for that. Sometimes you can appeal to the owner for additional time. So that solves the schedule side of the equation, but I know it doesn't solve the budget side of the equation when you push the schedule out, because your team members, they'll fill the void, right? I mean, if you give them more time, they will fill the void to do that. So go ahead to the next slide. Fairly simple, on time within budget. I mean, it's the goal of every owner, every owner client. I mean, that's the question that I get asked all the time. And I like I told you, I'm in the political arena with government projects, and that's what they want to hear to do that. I think the big message here for me is, as I lead into the next slides, is the PM has got to be the gatekeeper of the scope. So you've memorized the contract, you have a good indication. And on these larger projects, I'll tell you, every milestone, I reread the contract for those milestones. I refresh myself on what additional services did we promise them and what things did we do there, because we want to be the gatekeeper. So we're controlling the owner on one side, that when they start to go get some ambitious owners, oh, I got a designer on hand, hey, let's do this, let's do that while we're at it. You got to be sensitive to that, and sooner than later is usually the better answer when having a discussion with the owner. Hey, well, that's fine, we can do that, wonderful, but that is outside of our scope, and that is going to be an additional service. But also, as you get that information from the owner, you got to disseminate it to the team members, so that you're in the middle all the time, with doing that, to keep everybody on score, because you also want to be doing a little bit of a gut check and especially on the multidiscipline projects, is that your team members aren't going out of scope. I mean, I classically, and I'll blame the HVAC guys, because I know that HVAC is more of an art than a science. Every project, every building is a little different. And that, well, we could do it this way. Well, we could do it that way. Well, if we did this, we could do it this way. Well, it's like, as project manager, and the clock's ticking and the budget's ticking, is you got to take those variables in, you listen to everybody, and you got to make a decision and move on, because spinning wheels don't advance the budget and don't advance the schedule, I'm sorry, and then can hurt the budget on doing that. So we can go to the next slide. Change, as Catherine mentioned early on, and we all know, is that it's just part of the project, on doing this. And again, this continues on from you being the gatekeeper, discussion here. It does require some education to the owner. I mean, a lot of my owners, I don't have, a lot of my government owners, the smaller government owners, I should say, they're not educated. So they don't have a good understanding what architects and engineers do. And so I take it upon myself throughout that design process, and with them, and trying to educate them what our expectations are for that, as you're trying to do that. So they're not pushing me into a change, or they're not expecting change without being compensated for it. We can control the narrative through good meeting minutes. I find I'll say that meeting minutes are a pain in the neck and a necessary evil, but they are when it comes to these projects and accountability. You doing the meeting minutes versus having the construction manager or an owner's representative, you doing the meeting minutes sometimes helps control the narrative a little bit, with that. And then having good user meetings and clear communication back to our team members on what the project is. Then being sensitive to the scope and scope and fee for the project, and deciding on additional compensation. These are, depending upon your personality, these are difficult things sometimes to do. Some of us are better at it than others. Some of us have a better communication skills than others, and you just got to realize that about yourself and what works. My feeling is on my projects, generally, I don't want to nickel and dime the owner. I mean, I know some of our peers and some of our competitors who every little thing they're going to run back to the owner and have their hand out. Well, this is out of scope. This is what it costs, and this is what we need. And so there's an attitude with those guys, and I think a lot of clients like working with LaBella because we're more reasonable than that. And I try to take an attitude of, a change has got to be significant, or it's got to be like $5,000 or more for me to really bundle that or have a discussion with the owner about that change, and we're out of scope. If it's a lot of little changes, I'll get from team members, you know, $1,000 from mechanical, $1,000 from civil, $1,000 from, you know, electrical or something. I mean, so I'll take that into consideration, and I'll be watching that. I may be alerting, having some verbal conversations, you know, with the owner to, hey, we got some things that may be changing, but I'm trying not to go back to them on any more often than I need to, you know, for that. I mean, we want to be good consultants with them. Another thing that E&O services versus E&O errors and omissions, something that is I do a lot during construction. I mean, construction is complicated, and anybody in the room who is in the midst of that. And so many times our drawings aren't perfect. I mean, I'm very proud when our change orders on our documents are below 3% or below 1%. I've had great projects do that, but we all make mistakes. And some owners, it seems like we're becoming more of a litigious society. Owners are more sensitive to this with this public money, and so sometimes they're ready to point the finger, you know, at us. So many times, LaBella would rather trade. If we're doing it out of scope things during construction, I'd rather trade that for errors and omissions than write them a check or to do something else. If I really have an errors and omissions, I'd rather give them an additional design service at the end versus writing them a check. So something else to be, you know, careful of, you know, conscious of. The other thing that we're not very good at is we do political favors, right? We do favors for somebody, but we don't tell them, or we don't put it in an email, or we don't have a conversation with somebody. I mean, so sometimes we give away service deliberately for future work, and they don't realize it. I mean, so internally, oh yeah, we did that for them. We did, instead of 3 schemes, we did 5 schemes. Instead of this, we did that. And okay, they need to know that. I mean, as a manager, that's part of that educational. I want to be building as much goodwill with them as possible, and I don't want it to become, you know, unnoticed for that. I think the other thing with the managers is we can't do everything through emails. I mean, I think with the video conferencing, it's helped a lot if you can have a video conference with an owner, but periodically we got to either meet with them in person or get them on the phone. I think that I've seen a lot of younger managers, they just want to do stuff through emails, and it's just not, I just not going to say the success of just sending emails to the owner is not necessarily, you know, the way to go. With all the pressures on us that you know I'm feeling, and I'm sure a lot of you are feeling, that you know, we're a little understaffed, and when it becomes understaffed and overworked a little bit, its schedules are a big deal. And I like to have 2 schedules: a macro schedule that I give the owner with major milestones and not any more information than I would say that it has to be on that schedule. And I want to, when I develop that schedule, I want to be taking into consideration things that are going on at LaBella, things that are going on with my other disciplines work there. And I'm going to kind of buy as long a schedule if we're really busy, and I want to kind of buy the longest schedule that the owner will reasonably let me do, right? I'm going to push that on that end. But then I want to do a micro schedule internally. I want to put a micro schedule and I want to put on there as many dates as I possibly can. You know, when you're going to go to print, or when you're going to have a milestone PDF session created, and pencils are down, computers are down, the computers are turned off, and we go and do a submission. So I just want to give them as many dates as possible. I don't want to give internal people an excuse for I didn't know. And I want to circulate those schedules. I'm probably going to recirculate those schedules at the conclusion of every milestone event, because I want people, you know, to be aware of that. And again, I'm a firm believer that good schedules, internal schedules, and keeping those schedules and becoming a taskmaster with those schedules is a good way to lead, you know, towards profitability. for that. Obtain buy-in from team members. I mean, again, I made a comment earlier on about, talking with a senior person or talking with somebody as you're developing the schedule. But then at the appropriate time, I do circulate at the kickoff meeting, the design kickoff meeting or something. I will circulate the schedule, and you want to hear from team members and get the kind of a last feel from them before a schedule is issued. And get their buy-in. You get their buy-in meeting at the kickoff meeting. Now you have something that you can hold over them, so to speak, from an expectation standpoint as we go through the project and doing that. Assumptions and exclusions to control the project. I mean, this goes a little bit to how can we do things, a little differently, with materials and specifications, with bid alternates versus what we had in the contract. If the project looks like it's financially, from an estimate standpoint, over budget, just trying to be creative on what we can do. Can we change a product in a specification that is a simple change to do versus having to redraw something? Can I exclude a piece of scope of work on a drawing, or have a bid alternate for a piece of scope of work? Bid alternate's a better word than excluding it. Or can I, in some cases, I've been able to suggest to the owner, like on a pavement project, can they do some of the pavement? I'd have a parking lot to do or something. Hey, with your manpower, do you have the resources? We're kind of over budget. You want to maybe, with your crew, can you do the parking lot? Things that they can do that, could be a little cheaper and overall to do, and kind of trying to be simpler for us to do instead of us having to redraw something and do something. So you can go to the next slide. Management communication. I kind of talked about this, again in our beginning, is that when do you go to management? I think that the three big things are up here. You don't want to burden them always with the minutia of the project and the day-to-day issues of the project and things like that. I mean, you're to stand on your own 2 feet, so to speak, but certainly budget issues, schedule issues, error and omission issues, those are probably the hallmark things that you want to bring up to your division director or whoever your report is on there, because if we have some issues that we got to be able to resolve, when you bring those issues to your division director or to your manager to do that, I try not to use them as a crutch, right? You're trying to inform them, so now they feel like they have to have some, action involved in that. And I think that a lesson that I learned early on is, so I was a good guy, as I had a problem coming up, and so I went in there and I told the division director about the problem, but I wasn't going in there with a solution too. I mean, so I learned early on that as a project manager, I'm in the best position to kind of have a feel for what's going on with the owner, what's going on with the team, and maybe what some options are. And as you get older, obviously you become more familiar with what options are. But go to your division director when you have these issues and start to talk about some options in there. So you're not just putting them on the spot and you're just looking for them to solve the problem. That you want to be a part of that. And I'm saying leave your egos at the door a little bit. I mean, with I'm not even going to say younger project managers, but I've had other project managers where they just, their ego is so much that they want to do so well and they don't want to fail, and they're worried about what their position is going to look like in the firm, that they won't tell the manager until the 11th hour. So that has happened to me where I've had managers come to me and with very little time left or no budget left, that's when they tell me they got a problem. And you just, we need, in order to come up with some reasonable solutions and craft this together, we need time or you need budget in order to do that, to save face and try to do things. So I'm just saying to some of the managers, you don't go it alone. Think of it as project managers, think of it as the project first and not you or your ego or the position first. And it's business. It should be just treated as business. This particular thing happened. I'd rather get a hint of it early on, months or weeks or whatever the appropriate time is early on to strategize on how to solve a problem than in trying to fix it with no time or no budget left. It's probably, almost impossible to, fix it at that point in time. So you want to go to the next slide?
Hold on, Sue, I didn't know if you saw Chris's, okay.
Chris's, does LaBella have a lessons learned from various projects to reference if needed? So I told you, I do a lot with government municipal projects. So we have kind of done a lessons learned for my particular projects, a lot of my court and jail projects and county office projects. So we have kind of started with the MEP group and with the architectural group. We do have some lists of those. And I think in some cases it by project type is probably more appropriate than it is generalities. I mean, there could be generalities, right? That for all of us project managers to know of, but I think it's in a lot of cases. I like what you said about bringing solutions and not just problems. Yep, that's an invaluable thing I've learned from a past mentor, and that's when I was younger. That's where I learned it too. I had a senior principal that I was working with, and I'm a good soldier. I'm bringing in, there's an issue going on here, and you just can't dump it in their lap. You gotta.
Yeah, and Mark, just a note that we'll be talking about lessons learned a lot in the next session. And yes, we've been capturing from our previous PM training sessions a list of lessons learned that PMs have submitted to us, and continue to collect those, and we will publish those soon. However, they're not published just yet.
Yep.
If I could also put in a plug for March 23rd from 12 to 12:30, we're doing our very first PM roundtable, which is going to be an opportunity. It's on the calendar on the intranet. So if you're interested, check it out. It's going to be an opportunity for PMs of all levels to come and chat about different topics and share horror stories, things that went wrong, things that went right, and just learn from each other. So the first one where the topic is difficult clients and whatever else anybody wants to talk to. So
is that in LaBella University?
Yep, it's on the calendar for the 23rd of March, and we're starting out with just try and do a half hour, 12 to 12:30, and kind of see how that goes. But if you go to the intranet, to the calendar, it's through LaBella U. If you want to sign up on the page, and then you'll get an email invitation to it, and then we'll go from there and kind of see how it goes.
Okay. So Sue, I think we're gonna run a little short, so we may have to, when we hit the 1 o'clock, I'll do a couple more slides here, but I think when we hit 1 o'clock, we'll have to finish with session 6, like we did last time, I think.
We can do that.
Risk assessment. So this is again, project manager experience or bringing people in. Sometimes I've done that, but it's just your sense and awareness of the complexities of the project and why you were selected, to be a project manager of it. Questions that you ask yourself as you're going down the road with this is, Is it more complex than it needs to be? Is the design more complex than it needs to be? Are we have too many materials? Have we done too many materials? Is the structural system too much? You know, are we beyond what the owner was expecting for this? You know, it's kind of, are we getting in our own way, you know, on this? And one of the simple examples I have for this is that we were trying to, we were doing a jail project in Wyoming County, and they wanted to do this big corner turret on the side of the building that was facing the, you know, downtown of this small town. We were spending more time figuring out how to build this tower on the corner with a gable roof on it and maybe a clock in it, or something. More money in steel, more money in brick and masonry and support and vibration and everything. And we finally got rid of the tower. We did something else. I mean, it just things that, you know, think about as you're going along. I mean, as a manager, you need to sometimes be bold and thinking outside the box. Is it too difficult to construct? You know, can they bid it? This is coming into my situation, and I work a lot with construction managers or good sophisticated estimators sometimes, and I'll do a round table with them or an assessment with them after I get through the schematic phase or something else like that to say, okay, I got this historic courthouse. I need a 2-foot beam slid in through the court windows and jacked up the floor and getting this beam in there. How do I do that? I mean, so just an example. I mean, I had a donut shaped building, and the owner wanted to build inside the donut, and it was like 40 feet across the corridor to get to the donut, you know. So I engaged some construction managers and had a round table with them as, okay, what cost haven't I thought about? What kind of rigging do we got to do this? How do I get employees in and out? How do I handle this in an event of an emergency or a fire or something? How do I do that? So it's just some of those things that, you know, you want to do. Phasing. We all know that phasing costs money. Sometimes it's unavoidable, and sometimes you do the best you can. I had a project where the owner wanted to have no swing space. They didn't want to spend money on swing space, so they were willing to elongate the schedule to do that. So, but we all know time is money, and with labor, and so can that be, you know, simplified? Has the project engineer, you know, been involved, you know, with some of this stuff, making sure that as we're designing this, you know, at some level, I'm assuming that we're coordinating with our structural and mechanical people to make sure, you know, things can be done, and that we've thought about clearances and things like that. The construction schedule realistic, you know, is do I have the right talent and experience on the team to solve this? The one to me funny example wasn't my project, so I guess it's funny, is that we were trying to do this theater with this fly space to hold all the screens, you know, and to hold the different props and the drops for the theater. And our structural team had never done that before. And they were doing 3 or 4 iterations of this design with wind loads and seismic loads and things like that. And we just were killing the budget trying to do that. And it's like, okay, you got to know your limitations. If you got to go outside the office, I love LaBella being full service. But if I got to go outside the office, you got to go outside the office to get the right talent on there to be efficient and effective, you know, to do that. The other thing I think is the last thing here is when you're putting schedules together, and again, the project manager, if you don't know, you're not expecting you to know everything, and depending upon your age, you know, you have some sensitivities and some things you don't, then you need to get team members who do. But I find that people get themselves in trouble. They don't understand how long it takes to get geotechnical services. They don't understand how long it takes to get a survey. You know, how long is the seeker is the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act that we have to go through. And depending upon the complexity of the project, that could be 6 months, that could be a year, you know. And so with utilities and permits and agencies, that's all got to be factored into that schedule and for deliverables when you know, before you're talking to the owner and doing that. So So with that, Sue, if we want to stop, here, I see it's 1 o'clock, and then we'll pick up with the cost of change for session 6.
I think that sounds good.
Sorry, we didn't get through it, with team members, but we'll catch you. We'll catch you on session 6. So.
Sounds good. Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Thanks for attending.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great
Thank you.
afternoon.
Thank you. This
Right.
is great.
Thanks, everybody.